join in our gathering song. You are welcome here, wherever you're going to, wherever you're coming from. You are welcome here. You are welcome here, wherever you're going to, wherever you're coming from. You are welcome here, 'cause it's a house of love, a house of hope and dreams. It's a house of love, and you are welcome here. Yes, it's a house of love, a house of hope and dreams. It's a house of love, and you are welcome here. And now again in Spanish. Bienvenido aquí, tú quieres que vayas tú, tú quieres que vengas hoy. Bienvenido aquí, bienvenido aquí, tú quieres que vayas tú, tú quieres que vengas hoy. Bienvenido aquí a ese lugar de amor, de sueños, de ilusión, a este lugar de amor. Bienvenido aquí, sí, a ese lugar de amor, de sueños, de ilusión, en este lugar de amor. Bienvenido aquí. Welcome.
Good morning. And a joyful Mother's Day today. Welcome to Chalice Unitarian Universalist Congregation. We are a community of diverse beliefs and experiences, nurturing the liberal religious spirit and united by our desire to grow in love and in service. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever life's journey, you're welcome here. Whether you gather with us every Sunday, once or twice a year, or are here with us this morning for the first time, we're glad you're here. I'm Maria Pia Duffy-Foltz, the worship associate today. Our service is led by our minister, Reverend Sharon Wylie. Our worship musician this morning is Tim McKnight. Our song leader is Callie Leaf. Our tech team this morning is Hope Campbell and Sarah Komnick, and our greeters are Judy Cavallo and Steve Schlesinger. Welcome to our Sunday worship service. Welcome to those of you here in the chapel, and welcome to those of you watching live using Zoom. For those of us here in the chapel, you'll notice that we have the windows open. This is to ensure good air circulation in the room. There are 4 air purifiers in the room as well. Please feel free to leave the chapel at any time if you are uncomfortable for any reason. You'll be able to hear what's being said in the courtyard while you're outside. We are always delighted to see newcomers joining us in worship. As a newcomer, you might be interested in the groups and activities we offer. A good way to get this information is through our email newsletter and e-news calendar. Online newcomers will receive an email invitation to join our email list after the service. In-person newcomers, if you haven't already given us your email address when you signed in, please share it before you leave. Our weekly email is the best way to get information about the many groups and activities we offer here at Chalice. Now, let us take a breath together.
A land acknowledgement is an honest and historically accurate way to recognize the traditional First Nations of a place. It commemorates Indigenous peoples' principal kinship to the land and the fact that they have not been and cannot be erased from their collective First Mother, the land. It is a starting place to change how the land is seen and talked about, according to Wanda Nannybush of the Anishinaabe Nation in Ontario. For non-Indigenous communities, a land acknowledgement is a powerful way of showing respect and honor for the Indigenous people of the land on which we work and live. It is a way of resisting the erasure of Indigenous histories and working towards honoring and inviting the truth. It is a stepping stone to honoring broken treaty relationships. It is an act of reconciliation. Land acknowledgements are not about placing blame, nor are they intended to restore white comfort. They are prayerful, they are personal, with carefully chosen and accurate language. In honoring Indigenous peoples, we strive to learn the pronunciation of their names. Land acknowledgements recognize how systemic and institutional systems of power have oppressed Indigenous people, and how that oppression has historically influenced the way non-Indigenous peoples perceive and interact with them, in the past as well as in the present. And so, I offer this land acknowledgement. I acknowledge that I live, work, and raise my family on stolen land, the ancestral homeland of the Piamkouicham and the Kumeyaay nations, a people who have been living, working, and raising families on this land of their ancestors for countless generations. People who have an enduring connection to this land that can never be erased. People for whom their deep relationship with this land of their ancestors is inseparable from who they are. People who consider this land and everything around them to be part of their enduring family.
Our chalice, the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. I'd like to invite Victoria Cagle to light our chalice this morning. Our chalice lighting words come from Unitarian Universalist minister Reverend J. Wolin. Are we a people of holding on or of letting go? Holding on to rigid ideas or letting go and opening our minds and our hearts to something new? Holding on to certainty of how things should be, or letting go and living with the uncertainty of new ways of being in the world? Holding on to what makes us comfortable, or holding on or letting go as we may grow, which can be uncomfortable? Holding on to what makes us safe, or letting go to make room to help others feel safe? With this flame, this symbol of our religion, let it be a symbol of burning up the ties that hold us back from being our true self and reaching our true potential. Let it be a symbol of lighting a new way for us into a better tomorrow. And let it be a symbol of letting go, because holding on too long and too tightly is never good for the soul.
Here in the chapel, we've been blessed by some of the sounds from one of our youngest congregants. I'm sorry our online folks don't get to hear. The words of our call to worship. This morning in Escondido, California, and this morning in Tucson, Arizona, our two congregations are connected more than usual, more connected than our ordinary, everyday interconnectedness. Our ministers have written and prepared this service together. This call to worship the same in both congregations, the sermon and the hymns, the story and the prayer. As we come into this time and place, let us feel our connection to that time and place. Let us open our hearts to those open hearts and know that the challenges we face are not ours alone. The hopes we hold are not ours alone, and our dreams for the future are not ours alone. Let us worship together. You're invited to rise in body or spirit to join in singing.
This is a new hymn for us, so Tim's going to play it through once, and then we'll sing it through 3 times. Cherish this hour, then let it go, This life is but a vapor, blink and it's gone, blink and it's gone. Cherish this hour, then let it go, This life is but a vapor, blink and it's gone, blink and it's gone. Cherish this hour, then let it go, This life is but a vapor, blink and it's gone, blink and it's gone. Please be seated.
Our Sunday worship is the shared spiritual practice of our community, and we tend to the congregation during this time by sharing and honoring our joys and sorrows. Here in the chapel, you are welcome to write your joy or sorrow onto a candle card, which will be collected from you. Online, please write your joy or sorrow, including your name, into the chat box. These joys and sorrows will be spoken out loud, and then we will remove this part of the service from the recording that goes on our YouTube channel, so this sharing won't be publicly available online. So we have a few minutes of music so you can write down what you would like to share. If you would like to send Reverend Sharon a confidential note about your joy or sorrow, or to make a prayer request, please email her. Her email address will be on screen in a moment.
and we'll light a final pillar candle for all the joys and sorrows in our community that may go unshared and unspoken this morning. These too are held in the love and support of our community. And now I'd like to invite the children and anyone else who would like to come forward for the story.
Called Wanda's Roses by Pat Bryson. One morning in May, on the way home from school, Wanda noticed a bush growing in an empty lot. It was about 2 feet tall, and Wanda was surprised she hadn't noticed it before. But there it was, bare and thorny, and Wanda, who loved beautiful things, felt her heart beat faster. "A rose bush," she said, "my own rose bush." Now, the rose bush didn't really belong to Wanda, but since the empty lot didn't seem to belong to anyone, Wanda decided she would take care of it. All during school, she thought about her rose bush. She drew pictures of it in art. In library, she borrowed books about roses, and in science, she asked questions about how to grow it. After school, she rushed to the rose bush. It was still bare and thorny. Maybe it needs more sun, thought Wanda. So she began dragging the trash away from it. Now, Miss Turner, who was on her way from school, stopped to help her with the broken chair. "Cleaning up the neighborhood, Wanda?" she asked. "Oh, no, not cleaning. I'm helping my rose bush to get more sun so it will bloom." "Your rose bush?" said Miss Turner. "Where's your rose bush?" "Oh, there," she said, pointing to the bare, thorny bush. Oh, Wanda, I'm not so sure. It's a rose bush." "Oh, sure it is," said Wanda. "Well, good luck with it, Wanda." And as she walked away, Miss Turner thought to herself, "If that's a rose bush, I'm the Queen of England." The next day, she rushed to her rose bush after school. Maybe it needs more air. So she began taking even more trash to the curb. "Once I get the trash out, there'll be plenty of good air." Mr. Claudel was on his way home and asked, "Cleaning up the neighborhood, Wanda?" "Not just cleaning. I'm getting rid of the trash so my rose bush will have more air." "A rose bush? Here?" So Wanda showed him the rose bush. "Well, I don't know much about gardening, but I don't think that's a rose bush." "Sure it is," said Wanda. "In a few weeks, this lot will be filled with the sweetest smelling flowers you ever saw." And she thanked Mr. Claudel for his help. "That's a rose bush," he thought to himself. "Well, then I'm the King of France." Every day after school, that week and the next, Wanda worked to clean up the lot. Miss Giamatti, who lived in the apartment next door, gave Wanda trash bags. "You've done a great job cleaning up," Miss Giovanni told her. "Oh, I'm not just cleaning, I'm getting rid of the trash for my rose bush." "Where's your rose bush?" said Miss Giamatti. So Wanda showed her. "Oh, Wanda, that's not a rose bush." "Oh, but it is. And in a few weeks, this lot will be filled with the most beautiful roses you've ever seen." "Don't worry, Miss Giamatti. I won't be disappointed." Miss Giamatti sighed. The next week, when the rose bush still wasn't blooming, Wanda went to the library. "I need some books about getting roses to bloom," she told Miss Jones, librarian. "Oh, do you have a rose bush, Wanda?" "Yes, but it doesn't have any flowers yet." "I know it has enough sun and fresh air." "Does it have water?" asked Miss Jones. "Oh, of course. I will need water to make it bloom." So that afternoon, she rushed to the rose bush. And she looked at the dry ground and smiled. "Don't worry, little bush. I'll get you water." She went to the butcher shop across the street. "Mr. Sanchez, would you please give me some water for my rose bush?" "A rose bush? Is that what I see you taking care of?" "Oh, yes. But it can't bloom because it needs water." Mr. Sanchez gave her some water in a plastic bucket. "I really do hope it's a rose bush, Wanda. You'll see, in a few weeks, whole lot will be full of roses." As Wanda carried the water to her rose bush, Mr. Sanchez muttered, "In a few weeks, that thorn bush will still be a thorn bush." But every day, Wanda ran to her rose bush, and every day it was still bare and thorny. Mr. Claudel checked on it his way home from work. Miss Turner on her way to the butcher shop. Miss Giovanni from her window, Miss Wanda from the library asked if there were any roses yet. And every day when Wanda went to the butcher shop for water, Mr. Sanchez would say, "Are there any roses yet?" And to each person, Wanda would just answer the same thing. "Just you wait. Pretty soon, whole lot will be filled with roses." One day in June, Wanda looked at the thorny bush and said, "Well, if my rose bush won't give me roses, I'll give roses to my rose bush." When she saw Mr. Turner and Mr. Claudel, Miss Giovanni, Miss Jones, and Miss Sanchez, she gave them an invitation that said, "Please come for tea and muffins in Wanda's rose garden Saturday morning at 9 o'clock. "Oh dear," said Miss Turner, "is she still expecting roses?" "Oh no," said Mr. Claudel. "Oh my," said Miss Giovanni. "Oh darn," said Mr. Sanchez, "there must be something I can do." "Oh good," said Miss Jones, who'd only heard about the rose bush and hadn't seen it for herself. "I'll bring the muffins." The night before the party, everyone was busy, and in the morning, everyone was surprised to see Wanda's rose bush covered with roses, paper roses that Wanda had made herself and carefully tied to each thorny branch. But more surprising yet was everyone who came to the party had brought along a rose bush to plant near Wanda's, except Miss Jones, who brought the muffins. After they'd eaten the muffins and drank their tea, they all got busy planting rose bushes. Mr. Claudel and Mr. Turner dug the holes, Miss Giovanni held the bushes in place, while Wanda and Miss Jones filled in around the roots with soil, and Mr. Sanchez brought water from his shop. When the work was finished, Mr. Claudel said, "Wanda, this is going to be a rose garden fit for a king." "Or a queen," said Miss Turner. Wanda and the others smiled. And later that summer, the whole lot was filled with the biggest, most beautiful, sweetest smelling roses that anyone had ever seen, just as Wanda said it would be. The end.
As the children leave for their classes, we join in singing. Walk on your path with a song so sweet that everywhere you go there is love all around. Walk on your path with a song so sweet that everywhere you go there is love all around.
I'm not sure if you heard, that story was pronounced amazing by one of our young congregants who also appreciates roses. So this past March, I attended a gathering of UU ministers, a time for us to rest together, to worship together, and to learn together. During a collegial discussion about the future of church in an increasingly secular world, the idea arose that the work for our congregations, not just those of us in the room that day, but the work of Unitarian Universalism as a whole, that the work for our UU congregations is to ensure our survival, is to make the transition from the leadership of the baby boomer generation, those who are now around the ages of 60 to 80, to the millennial generation, those who are between the ages of the late 20s to early 40s. Why isn't the work to transfer leadership to Gen X, those of us who are in their 40s and 50s, the generation in between the baby boomers and millennials? Well, just in terms of numbers, Gen X is much, much smaller than the generations that come before and after us. According to Pew Research, the population of Generation X is about 70% of the size of baby boomers. Gen X can't step into all the roles and positions that baby boomers have filled because there just aren't enough of us. On top of that, there are some big cultural differences between baby boomers and millennials. We know this, right? Social media loves to exaggerate the so-called fights between baby boomers and millennials. But the world has changed pretty dramatically in just a couple of generations. And the world that millennials grew up in included the internet, email, and cell phones, along with the harsh realities of the climate crisis, economic volatility, and the terrorist attacks of 9/11. Their lives and how they see the world are very different from the ones of the generations that precede them. For us to transition the leadership of our congregations to millennial age people, then first and foremost, we need to have millennial age people in our congregations. We don't have data about the ages of our congregants across all of Unitarian Universalism, but here at Chalice, we estimate that just 6% of our congregants are millennial age, compared with almost half who are baby boomers and 25% who are Gen X. If congregations like ours are to survive and thrive, we need to do much, much more to reach and serve people of the millennial generation. So at that collegial gathering in March, I made a connection with Reverend Bethany Russell-Lowe, the minister at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tucson, Arizona. And we decided that we wanted to write a sermon together about what we think UU congregations need to know about millennials, specifically millennial parents, because this is absolutely a population that we should be reaching. Bethany is a millennial, and I am Gen X, and we hope that together we have some good ideas to share. We also asked some questions in an online group of UU parents, so we have some feedback and quotes from a wider circle of people. So here we go. 10 things millennial parents want our UU congregations to know. The first, millennials grew up in a multiracial, multi-ethnic world. 39% of millennials are racial or ethnic minorities, compared to 18% of baby boomers. That's more than twice as many. And the generation following millennials is almost half racial or ethnic minorities. That next generation is called Gen Z. To these generations, arguing about things like the statement that Black Lives Matter is archaic. For millennials, a multiracial community isn't an aspiration, it's who they are. One of our online parents noted, "We will absolutely call you on it if you are trying to navigate white supremacy within the congregational system by avoiding talking about it." And now Reverend Bethany.
Millennials are seeking spirituality, and church isn't the only option. Casper ter Kuile, a researcher out of Harvard University, explains this well. He says, "We aren't young people who hate religion. We are a growing group that feels like we have been left behind by religious institutions." Ter Kuile points to the places where millennials are creating spiritual community. He mentions in specific peer support groups for 20, 30, and 40-somethings who are grieving, CrossFit, and Afroflow Yoga as 3 places where millennials are finding space for meaning-making and community. There's a joke among some UU ministers that in order for church to be relevant, we have to be better than brunch. Because brunch is a viable alternative to church on Sunday mornings. Millennials are hungry for what Unitarian Universalist congregations promise at our best. Millennials are hungry for community that lives out the values of inclusion, equity, and justice. We are hungry for spaces to explore our own beliefs, to learn about different meaning-making structures, and to integrate anti-racist and anti-oppressive values into our spirituality. These values are held within our principles. So how can we better live up to our promises? Are
Number 3, multi-platform is mandatory, not optional. The world has changed. Millennials have always had more comfort with technology than those of us who grew up before the internet existed, but the pandemic has demonstrated that the rest of us are able to learn these technologies when we need to. No more pretending that it's too complicated or that we can't figure it out. This is particularly important to parents. As one online parent noted, remote participation options for things like committees might allow for my participation, when otherwise I just cannot manage one more thing I have to drive to. Next, we're going to talk about modern parenting being hard. Again, Reverend
Climate
Bethany.
chaos. Climate is impacting our parenting in huge ways. If we decide to have children, we are agreeing to live alongside the fact that we might not be able to leave an inhabitable world for them. We are raising them to be prepared for that reality. Many of us are choosing to not have children for this fact that we cannot ensure that we can leave Earth inhabitable in their lifetime. We want church to be a place where we can explore the existential questions of our time. How do we raise healers? How do we raise restorers? How do we raise communicators? How do we raise children who become adults who are part of the solution and not the problem to climate chaos? We are not just seeking your advice. We are seeking your companionship to these existential questions, because we know you've had them too. If you were raising children during the Cold War or Vietnam, or had nieces and nephews or other children in your life during another existential crisis, how did you grapple with the fact that the future was so uncertain, that their future was uncertain? And how are you feeling about your own part, however small it be, in bringing about climate chaos? Childcare is really, really expensive. In Pima County, Arizona, where I am, it costs a median of $12,500 a year for full-time childcare for an infant and $9,700 a year for full-time preschool for toddlers. Those figures are between 13.7% and 17.6% of the median income in our county. Many people pay more for childcare than they do for rent or mortgage. Since 1990, the Bureau of Labor Statistics says that childcare costs have risen 214%, while average wages have only risen 143%. Childcare costs have gone up 40% in many cities just since 2020 alone, when the pandemic forced teachers and other people who worked in childcare centers to leave those professions. It's not about the lattes or the avocado toast. The cost of housing and childcare and everything has increased disproportionately to the increase in wages the past few decades. Even those millennials and Gen Xers who consider themselves middle class are struggling to make ends meet now, especially if they're raising kids. If we are pledging $25 a month to our church, that might be a stretch for us. Know that when we ask our congregations to pay for childcare, we are asking knowing exactly how expensive that ask is. Chaos.
Care numbers in San Diego County are higher, 14 to 20% of the median income. All right, item number 6, we want you to know, modern parents are raising their children during a mental health crisis. As hard as the pandemic was on all of us, among the hardest hit were families with young children who were suddenly expected to manage and oversee their children's schooling on computers at home. The pandemic has had devastating impacts on learning and socialization. Anxiety and depression in children has escalated, along with suicidal ideation. This comes at a time when there are not enough healthcare providers to meet the demand. This means that parents are living with enormous challenges and stressors. Making time for church on Sunday mornings takes a substantial effort. It can be a challenge for parents to volunteer their time in some area of church life because there may be at-home emergencies that pop up, impacting a parent's ability to show up for a scheduled meeting or a volunteer commitment. Now, number 7, millennials sometimes feel invisible in our congregations.
We are already showing up. We are already here. Until I was pushing 30, nearly every time I walked into a new Unitarian Universalist church, I was directed to the youth room for the teen gathering. Since I come with my toddler in tow these days, I'm now directed to the nursery. Even if I was a youth, and even if I was in search of the nursery, what I want when I walk into a Unitarian Universalist church is to be seen, is to be welcomed, is to be asked, what brought you here? What are you seeking? When I'm directed somewhere other than the sanctuary, when I'm assumed to be a decade younger than I am, doesn't make me feel very welcome. What if we assume that we, millennials, are already here? If you started looking for us, you'd soon learn that we're likely to scope out your church before bringing our kids to it. If you want our kids, you have to welcome us first. We're not willing to bring our kids to yet another environment where they won't feel welcome. We test out your welcome and bring our kids when we have trust that they will be welcomed as they deserve to be. Look for us. Approach us. Introduce yourself. Ask if we've met before. Ask what brought us here. Ask what we liked about the service. Offer to show us where the coffee and tea are, or give us a tour of the campus. Show us where the nursery is, and show us where your favorite corner of our sacred space is. We are here for ourselves, not just our kids. Already showing
32 years old. Congregants were so excited to welcome us young people that my husband and I joked about people jumping out of the bushes at us. Everyone wanted us to come to their committee meetings, but we just wanted to meet and get to know people, not join a committee. For years at that congregation, older congregants assumed that I was new to the church, even though I had been a member for quite a while. It's strange to somehow feel hyper-visible, like everyone is watching you because being in your 30s at church makes you so young, but somehow also invisible, like never being treated like a real congregant. Number 8, millennials in our congregations are ready to take on leadership roles, because in their eyes, what we are doing and how we do it need to change. Those two things go together. Millennials are leaders, and things need to change. This can be a struggle in church life because current church leaders are usually looking for the next leaders who will step in and continue doing things the way they're being done. But that's not likely to happen. Innovation happens in every generational shift, and millennials' comfort with technology means they are eager to experiment with technology that makes organizing simpler and faster. I just have to tell you, we're talking about getting new t-shirts for the congregation, and those of you who were here the last time we did this, remember all of the ordering was on the courtyard, and the millennial age person who is proposing this, of course, all of the ordering happens online. People order in, so anyway, I started to tell her how we used to do it, and then I thought, wait, why am I telling her how we used to do it? Doesn't matter anymore. So I know this topic of new leadership can feel like a tender subject to our congregants who want to step back from leadership roles, but feel that there is no one to take their place. If you can't pass it on, sometimes the work is to step back and to let it go. Your thing may need to flounder. Leave it to the next generation to figure out what to do. But, number 9, millennials in our congregation are not going to run the religious education program. Previous generations may have sought religious community for their children, but millennials are coming for their own spiritual development. The world is a hot mess, literally. And millennials need support and spiritual nourishment for facing the challenges of our times. If we want to attract and keep millennials in our congregation, we need to provide the support and programming that they are looking for, not expect and hope that they will provide their own programming for themselves. And number 10, Our congregations need to recognize that children are congregants. This is an area where the online parents had the most comments. Here they are. And I'll preface by saying, I think and I hear that our congregation does a pretty good job with this, but listen closely anyway. Stop insisting that children be quiet, inside and outside. Children are casual and playful and joyful. Let church be their home. Please connect to the children as real people. They need more adults who care about them specifically. That was what was behind our story choice this morning. They all need more adult attention. Please, pretty please, this is a direct quote. Please, pretty please, listen to whatever their current passion is. YouTuber, Pokemon, dinosaurs, I don't care. Because their parents have already listened to this approximately 36 hours a day for the last year, and please, we just want to drink our coffee. Some kids have invisible disabilities, and what you might think is bad behavior or a bad kid is just part of who and how they are in the world. And if you give parents dirty looks because their kids are being kids, those parents won't be back. So, what's to be done? We know that some of the information we've given here is a little complex, like welcome millennials and see them, but don't be so hyper-welcoming that it gets weird. Know that millennials are leaders who want things to change, but they are also exhausted and can't provide all their own programming. It is up to congregational leaders to find the balance needed to genuinely welcome younger generations and to follow and support their lead. But some of the needs that millennial and Gen X parents have, as well as guardians of all generations, are not so different from all of our needs. People of all generations want us to be bold and visible in our justice work. People of all ages want to explore what shared leadership and collaboration look like. People of all ages want to challenge the way we have always done things. People of all ages want to be recognized and celebrated for who they are. They want genuine connection and to relate to people of similar and different interests. Some of these people just happen to be shorter and under the age of 18. People of all ages benefit when we use and improve our capacity for multi-platform church. When we make meetings virtual or hybrid, meaning in-person and virtual, people of all ages benefit. Some can hear better, others can see better. Some can attend from wherever they are, the soccer game or the trip across the country, and everyone can benefit from the use of the mute button. Making space for younger generations to take on leadership in our congregations, to welcome them into our communities, makes more space for all people to thrive. With the religious landscape in a time of upheaval that began even before the pandemic, there are predictions that 2/3 of all religious communities, including our UU congregations, will close in the next 10 years. If we are to survive this grim prediction, we need to create the conditions for people of all ages to thrive in our communities. UU congregations can avoid, or at least delay, this decline if we can shift to being places where people of all ages feel welcome and where people of all ages can step into new leadership. Remember that Unitarian Universalism has much to offer in this era where disconnection, loneliness, and feelings of powerlessness abound. The world needs us more than ever, and it's up to us to rise to meet these demands. May it be so. You're invited to rise in body or spirit to join in singing.
So this is another new hymn, and Tim is going to play the first part when we get to the lyrics up there, which we will then sing through twice, and then the bottom two lines will be sung twice, and then we'll go back to the top part and sing that twice as well. Clear as mud? Just follow me. Loosen, loosen, baby, you don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Loosen, loosen, baby, you don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Holy breath and holy name, will you ease this pain? Holy breath and holy name, will you ease this pain? And back to the top. Loosen, loosen, baby, you don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Loosen, loosen, baby, you don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Please be seated.
The Sunday offering is an expression of the generosity that makes our congregational life possible. As Buddhist teacher Christina Feldman writes, generosity lies at the heart of spiritual practice. Extending generosity to ourselves and others gladdens our hearts, is a way of healing division, and brings joy. Please text your donation to Chalice. If you haven't texted a donation before, know that once you text the amount, you'll get a reply with a link to follow to enter your credit card information. If you have already entered this information previously when you've donated, you won't need to enter it again. If your Sunday donation is meant to be part of your pledge payment, please be sure to indicate pledge after the dollar amount. The phone number for text donations will be on screen in a moment. If you prefer to make an in-person donation of cash or check, there are envelopes in a donation box to the left of the chapel double doors. You can leave those donations after the service. Please give generously. Please join in dedicating our offering with words of affirmation. At Chalice UU Congregation, our mission is to inspire individual and communal spiritual growth.
So we wanted a special note to our message this morning that we feel Gen X congregants have a crucial role to play in guiding the transition to millennial leadership. Gen Xers have been called chameleons, bridge builders, and translators between millennials and baby boomers. Their leadership in our congregations is critical to pave the way for millennials. To celebrate the special connection between the Gen X and millennial generations, we have a YouTube video from the Holderness family, famous YouTubers, welcoming millennials into the club of getting older.
What's up, millennials? Those of you born after the bicentennial. The bicentennial, wait, you've never heard of it? Okay, go ahead and Google it. Got it? Have you noticed you've been doing just a little less raging? Behavior is changing because you are aging. Well, Gen X is here to say, don't be bummed. Come on in. Welcome to the club. Welcome to the club. You got a calendar on your fridge. It's metallic. And a very strong opinion about who the best Jeopardy host is. It's Bialik. Do you think that Wordle is the best thing? Do you share your results on a text string? Here you are loved. Gonna have a good time. Welcome to the club. Sit down and have a spin drift with lime. Welcome to the club. Don't resist if you persist to insist this isn't you. Checklist. Are you using reader glasses, calculating chip percentages? The younger generation calling all your clothes vintage. Do you start thinking about Christmas shopping in October? Is it taking you 3 days just to kick your hangovers? Do you only go to movies if they serve food? Do you go on mental health walks for your mood? Did you buy a chair for your back? It's okay, be honest. Like a specialty chair for your back, I have 2 of them. If you have 1 of them, it's fine, you're in the club. And you go straight to the VIP line. Are you shocked and appalled because you don't want to acknowledge that the supermarket music is the stuff you liked in college? Are you feeling outdated and a little unloved? Well, you're not. Welcome to the club. Welcome to the club. You're upstairs by 8. 'Cause we're snoozing. You got a lot of house plans. This is Susan. This is new to you. You're like, what's up with this? Why do we have so many supplements? We live it up. Welcome to the club. Now that you are in the club, don't hate, celebrate. Sure, you're getting older, but getting older is great. We go to dinner right at 6, easy reservation. We save up all our money for a Disney vacation. And that's a lot of saving because the parks are really spendy. We say stuff like that and we don't care if we're not very trendy. Yeah, people in this club don't have no flying flips to give. This is how we roll and this is how we live. Welcome to the club. Plenty of room for you. What's your favorite song? We're okay that your favorite band is Blink-182. Yeah, our clothes are now trendy today because we just never threw them away. Feeling the love. Welcome to the club.
Sorry, was that? Chug and Spindrift. Sorry.
What?
And I invite you to hold that joy and laughter, and I invite you into the spirit of prayer. Our prayer comes from the Reverend Sarah Goodman, who says, "Join me in the spirit of prayer and meditation. Find a comfortable place for your body and breathe as deeply as you are able. Hold in your mind the image of all things, all beings coming from the same tree, roots stretched in limitless tangles of connection and sustenance, interconnected and interlaced in a web of living and dying that is so beautifully designed and most times invisible. Join me in breathing. Breathe in for our lives, touched by ancestors known and unknown. Breathe out for living lives that will touch our descendants. Breathe in for folks held in loving arms as they were raised up. Breathe out for folks who had to make their own way too early in their lives. Breathe in for beloveds who we hold close in our hearts every day. Breathe out for beloveds we sometimes have trouble reaching out to. Breathe in for loving. Breathe out for losing. Breathe in for parents doing the best that they can. Breathe out for the impossible decisions they've had to make. Breathe in for those living with addictions, mental illness, and grief. Breathe out for those living with and caring for folks living with addiction, mental illness, and grief. Breathe in for caregivers of all kinds who give of themselves to make other people's lives better, more whole. Breathe out to honor this holy work. Amen, and blessed be. You are invited again to rise and join in singing.
Let the life I lead speak for me. Let the life I lead speak for me. When I'm lying in my grave and there's nothing more to say, let the life I lead speak for me. Let the life I lead speak for me. Let the life I lead speak for me. When I'm lying in my grave and there's nothing more to say, let the life I lead speak for me. Let the friends I have speak for me. Let the friends I have speak for me. When I'm lying in my grave and there's nothing more to say, let the friends I have speak for me. Let the work I do, let the work I do speak for me. Let the work I do speak for me. When I'm lying in my grave and there's nothing more to say, let the work I do speak for me. Let the songs I sing speak for me. Let the songs I sing speak for me. When I'm lying in my grave and there's nothing more to say, let the songs I sing speak for me. Let the love I share speak for me. Let the love I share speak for me. When I'm lying in my grave and there's nothing more to say, let the love I share speak for me. Let the life I lead, let the life I lead speak for me. Let the life I lead speak for me. When I'm lying in my grave and there's nothing more to say, let the life I lead speak for me. speak for me.
Closing words this morning come from Unitarian Universalist minister Reverend Carl Seaberg. Between the dawn and the dusk of our being, let us be brave and loving. In our little passage through the light, let us sustain and forward the human venture in gentleness, in service, and in thought. Amen. Love and blessings to each of you. Blessed be. You are invited to close our time together by singing the well. After our closing hymn, please return to your seats for a couple of announcements.
Drink from the well together, cool, cool water that quenches my thirst, a thirst for justice, a thirst for joy, a thirst for a love that we're all a part of. We drink from the well. We drink from the well together. Hand in hand we are standing as one, standing for justice, standing for joy, stand for a love that we're all a part of. We drink from the well. Open the doors to the world outside, spirits renewed from within. Look for the dream in each other's eyes, the spark where a new world begins. Yes, we drink from the well together. Heart to heart we are dancing as one, dancing for justice, dancing for joy, dance for a love that we're all a part of. We drink from the well, spirits renewed. We drink from the well, stand hand in hand. We drink from the well, dancing for joy. I feel my heart swell. We drink from the well.
Announcements. Steve Schlesinger and Julie Cavallo are coordinating the next dinner at the Haven House Homeless Shelter located at the Interfaith Family Services in Escondido. The date is May 20th from 5 to 7 p.m. They need volunteers to help buy food, cook, serve, and clean up. Please contact Judy Cavallo or Steve Schlesinger, or for more information, you can email havenhouse@chaliceucongregation.org. And Tim would like me to invite everyone and let you know that next week is our music service on Sunday, May 21st. So it's the first music service that we've had in 3 years, and it will be featuring many of our talented Chalice musicians. So we hope you can all make it next Sunday. Our social hour will begin in a few minutes online at this same Zoom link and in person in our courtyard. Those of you here in person might want to bring your refreshments into the Blue Room and have a visit with our online congregants. Please enjoy.